Today we're going over Engwe's all-terrain e-bike, the E26. I found that the easiest way to unbox this bike is to cut the side of the box and then lean the box over to the other side and then pull everything out. So here's everything that comes in the packaging. The bike itself comes pre-assembled for the most part. Here's the front wheel, charger, pedals, the bell. This is the hardware to mount the headlight onto the fork, the handlebars, tool set, the front fender, the kickstand, and this cargo rack that is rated for 55 pounds. The whole assembly only took about 15 minutes. I started by installing the front wheel first, then the kickstand, so we could continue the rest of the assembly with the bike standing up on its own. From there, you just mount the handlebar to the stem, position it to what's comfortable. Keep in mind that the stem is adjustable in height and angle. Screw the pedals into the cranks. The left one is reverse thread, the right side's regular. The rear fender already comes pre-mounted, though you still have to secure the support brace to the frame. Now you can mount the cargo rack to the frame. The easiest way to do this is to loosely thread all 4 Allen bolts to the frame before you torque any of the bolts down. Then you can install the brake lamp, which mounts to the bracket on the back side of the rack. I just used the zip ties provided to secure the wire harness to the rack. The last thing you have to do is mount the front fender, which shares the same mounting point as the headlamp on the fork. And this bike is huge. Just to give you guys an idea of how it looks with a 5'8" rider. This bike is probably more ideal for 5'9" to 6'4" riders. So you don't actually need a key to operate the bike, but you do need it to take the battery out. To do that, you just put your key here and turn counterclockwise, and the battery pulls out. If you decide to ride your bike to work, you can bring it inside and charge it at your desk. All right, first thing I'm going to test out is the speedometer accuracy. Let's go test out the max speed on throttle only while we're at it. Alright, so that's not so bad. It was less than 1 mile an hour off. When the display was showing 25.6 miles an hour, the GPS was showing 25. So it's less than 1 mile an hour off, which is actually pretty good. So now let's go test out the top speed with pedal assist on pedal assist number 5, since that's the only one we really care about. What was pretty impressive about that is we were actually going uphill during that moment, and it was showing like 30.9 on the speedo, but GPS clocks it at 30 miles an hour, so it actually goes a little faster than their advertised speed, which I certainly cannot complain about. I don't know about you. So this is how the Engwe E26 comes from the factory. They call it a dual suspension because it's got a fork with 80 millimeters of travel, and then there is a shock right below the seat. I personally wouldn't consider this a full suspension bike. I would consider it a hardtail with the seat that happens to have a shock built in. Before we go any further with riding this bike, I just want to quickly go over all the features. As you see here, it's got a 55-pound rated cargo rack. It's using a Shimano Tourney derailleur, and that's paired with a 7-speed shifter. It's got a nice display here, and the controls are pretty easy to use. You just go plus or minus to adjust the pedal assist level. Power button's over here. You just hold it for 2 seconds to turn the bike on and off. There are 2 buttons on the right side. The top one changes the screen settings. Then there's another button here on the bottom right. That's what turns the LED headlight on and off. The LED headlight is actually quite bright. I'm gonna throw a clip on the screen just to show you guys what it looks like at night.
But it's not just a projector lens, it's also got some city lights above and below. It's got a pair of 26x4 Chaoyang fat tires, which I currently have inflated to 14 psi. I like how the pedals are no longer folding. I was never a big fan of those folding pedals, and these are actually made out of metal. They're not just some cheap plastic. And as far as braking power, it's got a set of 180 millimeter disc brake rotors front and rear, and that is paired with a set of hydraulic calipers, which is pretty surprising considering this bike only costs a little over $1,000. I don't know where you can get a quality e-bike for a little over $1,000 that goes 30 miles an hour and has hydraulic brakes. The taillight that's mounted on the back of the cargo rack is very bright, and it's got a fully functional brake lamp. It's got these nice metal fenders front and rear to keep you from getting wet if you're riding in rain or wet conditions. It's nice and functional, but I'm likely going to take it off just because I think it'll look a little cleaner without it. This bike is hub motor driven, so it is very silent if you are just putting around at low speed on some trails. For a power supply, it's using a 48 volt 16 amp hour lithium battery, which is also removable. This battery has a discharge current of 25 amps, so technically it can support up to 1200 watts of power. I just want to show you guys all the features and how it comes in stock form before I decide to make any sort of changes. So we're going to be making a few minor tweaks just to make it look a little bit more sleek for my liking. So being only 5'8", there is quite a bit of a distance between the seat and the handlebar. And even though this stem is adjustable, it only gives you the option to raise the handlebar to bring it closer to you, but it does raise it quite a bit, and it makes it feel like it rides kind of awkwardly that way. So I'm going to be cutting down the head tube about 1 inch, and then I'm also going to be putting a different style stem to bring the handlebar closer.
I decided to remove the fenders and all of the reflectors to give the bike a cleaner and more aggressive mountain bike look. I also removed the cargo rack since I'm not planning on hauling anything with this bike. I'm mostly using it to commute back and forth to work and riding on some light off-road trails where I typically can't get away with riding my e-motos, such as my Talaria or my Roar Mantis. I cut the bracket off the back of the cargo rack and mounted it on the bottom side of the seat in order to relocate the tail lamp, since I still wanted to keep the fully functional brake light. I just used a Wake 31.8mm mountain bike stem to bring the handlebar closer to me for a more comfortable riding position. If you are interested in checking this out, I will have a link to it in the description below. And here's a closer look at how everything turned out. The shorter stem with a mild rise, the relocated brake lamp, the rack and fenders deleted. I just think the bike looks so much better this way. I decided to take the bike to some of my local mountain bike trails just to see how it truly performs in off-road conditions, since the manufacturer calls it an all-terrain bike. What I discovered is it handles light terrain very well and is able to maintain a consistent speed of 23 to 24 miles an hour using throttle only, so power is definitely not an issue. The ride is fairly comfortable since the bike is equipped with a front suspension fork and a set of large fat tires, which do a very good job absorbing light bumps and small stumps on the trail. I still do not consider this a full suspension bike though, it's more like a fat tire equipped hardtail. The suspension seat post does help some, so I took it a bit further and chose a more difficult and rocky trail, but this is where I discovered the bike's off-road limitations. I've been testing this bike for over a month now, and what I've gathered is it makes a wonderful commuter bike due to its super long range, soft and comfortable seat, and can take me through most of my local trails. The manufacturer states that it has a range of 87 miles, but I just don't see that being possible with the way that I ride it, since I ride mostly on the fastest setting and I rarely pedal. I'm getting something closer to 30 to 35 miles of range per charge. Regardless, that is plenty for anybody commuting on an e-bike. The bike handles very well on pavement, grass, gravel, though I don't recommend it for rocky terrain. But for the price of just $1,100, I think it is still a great bargain. If you are interested in getting more information on Engwe's E26, I will have links in the description below. And if you enjoyed today's video or found it helpful in any way, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you like this kind of content, want to see more of my e-bike and scooter reviews, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn your bell notification on. But this is going to be it for today. Thank you for watching.